people coming in, we can get started. Let me just start the YouTube stream as well. Okay. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to the today's session. We have Sid Puri with us. He's the head of India growth at Retool, and we'll be talking about low-code tools for PM today. We ourselves are creator of products community. So creators of product community is about all the product managers, engineers, founders, everyone who's creating product, building product, and want to discuss about these things. We are very active on Slack. We also are present on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So if you want to be part of this community, feel free to join our Slack. Let's go ahead with the session. Sid, why don't you introduce yourself and then we can get started.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Vanchika. It's great that we could get this going, and it looks like we have a few folks are clearly interested in the topic. So I'll just share my screen. I have a little bit of an intro to explain what I'm going to be talking about, and then we'll jump to a more live session where we'll try to build a app together. Just let me know when you can see my screen. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. It's loading again now. Yeah, can see the screen. Yeah.
Cool. So I think Vanchika already introduced me, but I head growth for India at Retool. Previously, I was a product manager at Bounce, a ride-sharing company, and before that, I was an engineer and a former founder. So kind of done it all. And I think it was my journey at Bounce from primarily as a product manager, where I really got introduced to a lot of problems at scale, as well as for a growing startup, right? And where I started using Retool and other low code solutions. Since I'm obviously pretty biased towards Retool, I'm going to try and focus that session, but I'm happy to, in the end, when discuss use cases that you have and you're looking to build something for, and what is possible on other platforms as well. So yeah, I'll do an intro about Retool, what is low code, how we look at it as a platform, and so starting with, I think our journey was, I think Retool started 4 years ago now, 5 years ago at YC. In fact, it was not started as Retool. The two founders were building a competitor, a UK version of Google Pay at that time, and they realized that they were constantly building the same applications. That they were spending so much time as a small startup building these same tools, internal tools, which were built of the same blocks. As you can see on the screen right now, there's a table, there's a form, there's a button, there's a drop down, there's a chart. It's the same things, but they keep building the same thing over and over again for different kinds of use cases, right? So to scratch their own itch, kind of came from that, and to what it is today, where we kind of work with lots of companies. So yeah, all these companies that have been part of our journey. I think Brex and DoorDash were the first few that started building the platform when they were just the two founders, and over the years we've expanded a lot. I personally work with a lot of the Indian companies you see on this, so Super Daily, Cred, ShareChat, etc. But it's pretty interesting because unlike other maybe SaaS companies, where your solution is used only in one kind of way, Retool is mostly like a blank canvas. You can think of us as giving Lego blocks almost to you to build what you need for your business or your product. Yeah. Also, through the session, I honestly prefer it to be as interactive as possible. So I'm not speaking somewhere not interesting to you. So feel free to ask. I'm happy to pause and answer those questions. So yeah, this has been Retool's journey. Obviously, DoorDash, which are very ops heavy companies, a lot of fintech companies. But what we have come to realize is almost every business, startup, big company has needs for internal tools at different phases. And primarily, I think the main thing that I learned at Bounce when I was like looking to solve my own problems was that uh, internal tools are like firstly the most boring part, right? Like you're trying to build a customer facing app. If you're a B2C startup, you have like maybe a mobile app that you want to focus on, and you don't want to spend time building the internal business tool to like power the app, but they just become like really important for your business to actually work. So um, let's go ahead. So I mean, I think, how do we think about it? We mostly don't even call it like low code, no code, because when in the company started, there was no, like that word wasn't like that big. And honestly, I think a lot of engineers and technical folks think that would mean that it's not a technical tool. So I mean, fundamentally, we want to change the way like software is built. Internal tools just happen to be like the easiest way to do that, right? You can customize everything, and it tends to have less needs of UI, and they tend to be more functional, very information heavy. You can think of like your CRMs at your companies and things like that. So the way it works is you can uh, we give you essentially a UI on top of any data source. So think about any kind of REST API endpoint, any kind of even Salesforce, or any database that your team uses, Postgres or MySQL. Currently, you probably have these tools that you build in-house, or you're using Google Sheets or something. You're in a smaller team. You're just like surviving on Google Sheets and working on that. But you need to build this like UI and give it to maybe someone in the operations team or the support team. That's sort of what this would like kind of look like. So yeah, just like a basic intro, right? So you can read and write on any data source. After that, you take these like pre-built components, and then you're able to quickly connect them in a visual way. So I've been an engineer before. Like I think one of the most annoying parts of building is that a lot of times your code doesn't compile. You have to think about how you're going to deploy this, and and for like very simple app that you need to like make. Let's say I need to build for this session, right? Let's say I needed to build a waitlist manager to figure out how many people are there, and maybe I want to send them an email. That seems like a very simple tool I would need. But if I had to go and build that, I'd need like a 2-week sprint, an engineer working closely with an engineer, figuring out how to deploy it, etc. Right? So this visual experience sort of like allows you to keep like seeing as you're building what is really happening. Cool. Yeah. So what I said, you can customize everything with like JavaScript and SQL. So it's still kind of coding. I would say it's not for like the faint-hearted. Someone who, if you're looking for something which is like really straightforward, right? I think someone had mentioned Glide in the beginning of this session. So that would be like the simplest of it, where you take a Google Sheet and you can make an app through it. Retool is, on the scale of like being a very technical product, because we believe that it's still important to write code sometimes. The basics, you can obviously write SQL, but you also want to like allow teams to scale with these platforms. You can't potentially like build something and then you have to build everything from scratch again because the platform doesn't let you, right? So that's how we think about it. If people have used like any tools before that are visual coding, low code, no code, anything that you think which like makes engineering easier or building products and shipping products easier, I'd love to like feel free to drop it in the chat. I'd love to understand what are the folks interested in and what are they like looking to build. So firstly, is there any tool you've used in the past which allows you to build applications without maybe coding everything? Glide, okay. So Glide is definitely, I think it's a very popular one. It's a pretty intro, like starting wise, it's a great one to start with because it gives you, like I said, you just give a spreadsheet to it and it builds an app for it. Has anyone used Retool here before? Metabase, very similar to Metabase is mostly for read-only dashboards, right? So you can't actually build an application where you're able to like write something back. Or you use Retool, cool. And Card is again great for landing pages. Okay, cool, awesome. I think folks in the audience definitely know what I'm talking about, so I don't need to go very basics. But I think when we're like thinking about these problems, it's interesting to think like what are the internal tools here, right? Like we work with all these companies, what are they building with these platforms? And these are like the table stake business tools that almost everyone hates to build, right? So uh, KYC verification, right? Uh, there's the there is the KYC verification that you can do through an API, through a whole automated system. But my past experience tells me that every system has like a manual process, either for review or for like, actually to like look at the profiles that don't have complete documents. All of that like tends to have like a human like in the loop kind of situation. And for that, for like all those like kind of tools and like dashboards or apps, you can call them, we see this like as a use case. A lot of fintechs have KYC verification tools. Marketplaces like Super Daily and DoorDash, we see things like promo code tracking, delivery tracking, uh, tools inside of their warehouse, tools across the supply chain, tools for the customer support team. Um, and I think Super Daily is like very interesting example because I think they are one of the few companies that use Retool 24/7. At night, it's in their warehouse, and the day, like the customer support team uses it. So it becomes like part and parcel of like the entire company's like backbone here, right? Then and there's like many more across like e-commerce and things like that. So this is just like a hopefully giving you a good idea of what internal tools, what does it mean when we say internal tools, and why should you care, right? uh and like speaking from like a personal experience, basically what we were trying to build at Bounce when I joined, we were a very small team. And why this need came about is because I had a team of like 50 engineers, but all the engineers were working on the bike at the time, because you needed to make sure. So Bounce is, for people who don't know, it's a scooter rental company where you can like book and you can pick up a scooter anywhere. So when we were trying to build that tech, you obviously would imagine everyone was building the tech for your bike and app to work together in sync. um, and as you can imagine, a tool for like the customer support team or a tool for the finance team was not priority at that point, but it's still needed. So for that reason, kind of I had to go find other solutions, because there was no way I was going to be able to spend time and put engineers on these kinds of problems. um, that's how my journey in Retool started, which is almost 3 years ago now. And like use the product through and through for like almost every areas, ended up joining the team. So cool. I think I can do a quick walkthrough of an app so that you guys get like see something and it's not just like a slide. So here is an application that you can imagine that I would build inside of Retool. So we have our, let me know if you can see my screen still. Anshika, you can see this application.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Cool. So you can imagine if I'm I talked about like a delivery use case. So if I need to like view my deliveries, I want to like build a map tool. I want to see all this like status of their current, like where they are and which ones are late, right? If I want to build, so if I want to go into like one of these rides and see what's happening, this is like the kind of tool I would need for, maybe my driver team for an e-commerce company or for a hyperlocal delivery company, right? Now, this is one like kind of problem statement that you can imagine that you would like face. Another one, I personally built a very similar one, which is like a coupon code generator. And as I will show you these tools, you'll realize they all kind of look very similar. They have a table, they have like some input and some output, and that's really all it is, which is why kind of where it becomes easier to like easier to build these quickly using a platform like Retool. Having said that, like if you had to build, let's say Flipkart, right? You can't build Flipkart on Retool. I would say that would not be the ideal like kind of problem sort of thing. But if you're Flipkart and you need to build Flipkart's internal tools, right? That's what you would build on this platform. You can build anything you want. You can build a customer-facing website as well. Just so happens that I think what we focus on at least is how do we enable all these businesses to kind of quickly build things that are very boring to build and very easy to build, and so that you don't want to put engineering resources to it. I think there is a question in the chat. Oh, cool. Now, yeah, so this is like a couple of tools. I think there's another one I can open up here. I think I mentioned KYC admin. So cool. Someone is. So if I need to build a KYC admin, let me open this application. What do I need? I need to probably search for a specific user ID. I need to look at a user's information. I need to quickly see at a glance of their documents, right? So this is for an example of a fintech company that is looking at users' driving license, passport, all of these documents, and then also seeing the history of transactions on this account. And you want to basically build this for maybe a support team or like a fraud monitoring team. And most of this is like view only and very data heavy. But what I will be able to do is I'll also be able to like quickly escalate and reject in this application, which means I can actually write back to my database. So if you really think about it, it's just a UI on top of a database, either a database, a Google spreadsheet, or if I have a REST API, then a REST API. So going into that kind of use case, I will start building an application quickly for you, and we can just take it from there. So let's just try to build something similar to what I was showing you. Let's call it the waitlist manager. So Pro waitlist manager app. Yeah, so this is how I will create an app. Let me add it to my folder. Let's see. I apologize if I'm a little slow. I'm using someone else's computer today because my Zoom stopped working yesterday. Let's see. Cool. This is like essentially a blank canvas. Like I said, we will have like we will have an application that we will build through these like building blocks over here. Just give me a second. Let me open this in a separate machine. Cool. So I can drag and drop a table component over here. Let's say I need to connect it to a like underlying database. So I need to like pick a resource over here. So if you like notice around like what you're seeing on the screen right now is essentially there's a right-hand side, which is like changing based on like the element I've selected. And there's a bottom over here, which is what it looks like is pulling a query. So over here, when I like select one of these, I'll be able to go inside and actually edit the resource. Hold on. I don't think, Vanshik, I'll be able to do this demo on this laptop, unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
Like very like slow. It makes it feel like Retool is slow. I can show like a few applications. I don't mind doing that, but I apologize, people. I'm like using a new computer.
I can understand. It's last minute disaster management we are doing. So
yeah, I mean, I think so. What instead I'll do is that I'll show you these quick examples, and I'll show you like a few apps I've also personally built, right? So people can open this app on their computers. If you go to covidfoodindia.com, this is an application I built, which is not an internal tool. It was an external tool I built during COVID, when people like needed to find ways to get home cooks, right? So there was this Google spreadsheet that was going around, and people were looking for volunteers. And obviously, since I was able to build this quickly, I took that Google sheet and made a UI on top of it. And essentially, if you give this thing to load, cool. So we have like a spreadsheet, and you can imagine that like all we need is like a UI view. If you open this on your phone, you'll also see like a mobile view of it. And you're able to basically filter this sheet and also WhatsApp the number over here. So if I click on this, it will open web.whatsapp.com. I don't want to open this right now, but yeah, essentially it'll open on your phone or your like laptop, where it'll be able to WhatsApp that number. Very simple problem statement. We just want to be able to give everyone in different places be able to submit their like what they're trying to build, sorry, what they're trying to which city they're in, and people who are willing to offer to cook for other like people who were facing issues with COVID and their entire family being sick. So we would give this so that people can become a partner. They would fill it out, and this spreadsheet would keep updating. And essentially anyone who went to this website was just an easy link, instead of just passing on a spreadsheet, to make it like look more legitimate and like more organized. The other thing that I think we can talk about is this. I have a few live apps that actual companies use. So if I show you this application, this is something that's in our Coinbase talk as well. And I've just taken these as from the talks we've had, because this is like how the people who are, actually using the product building applications. So, we talked about these customer support things. All of Coinbase's customer support team, for example, uses Retool. At the scale that they're at, they need to like build these like very like custom applications, and essentially they can ship these out really quickly. So this is like the tooling they need for customer support agents. So they check if a customer has access to a tax center product, and they need to like take some of this metadata to generate tax reports and documents on behalf of the customer. So it's very simple. Like you can see a few like drop downs, take a few inputs, and that allows them to generate this like forms in bulk. Other than that, they also have these tools where they allow engineers to quickly debug their API endpoints for this tax center team. So you can imagine every kind of team is like sort of very different use case, and they're able to build that specific solution to that problem. You might have heard of OnDeck. They're another similar company that essentially manage a cohort, manage multiple cohorts. So they get applications for fellowships, and they have to manage all these cohorts running simultaneously, similar to a lot of the edtech companies you're seeing in India. And so they use this to like upload a CSV from their Airtable, and they're able to like remove the duplicate profiles and easily add their like fellows into the like relevant course. Also as a database to like search for their like current course and who's in it. So like just like as a kind of central nucleus for their like company. Another one I did was a company named AirBlack, which also has these cohort-based courses for creators, teaching makeup and things like that. So they would run workshops similar to like the workshop we're running right now. And, these are like all the queries they would get from their support team. So when they were a small company, they could answer these all on WhatsApp and mark it on spreadsheet, but they needed to obviously scale with their teams. And this is how they used to handle their support queries earlier, right? So you would get all these coming in on Slack, and this was coordinated all through Slack and spreadsheet. As you can imagine, I'm sure some of you've been there, where you're at the start of a project, or you're in a very small team, or you're like doing a personal side project. You don't have time to build any tech for it, right? This is what you do. You start with everything starts with like probably a spreadsheet, and we then see like how they kind of transitioned this like spreadsheet plus Slack flow into like this portal, which allows them to quickly, quickly look at all the members' information, be able to take specific actions, and really like scale up their process, like support teams process with like less people. They're able to like do more. Also, they're not doing this with like engineers spending months and months of like time on the sprint. If you go to like the talk I had with Vidit like a few months back, he talks about like why Retool and not building them like from scratch was just like the solution that worked for them. And it's basically, when you're a really young startup, you don't want to spend engineering resources like for anything extra beyond what your customers like need. And so every like small kind of problem, whenever a member is facing an issue, they want to change a batch or extend membership. I personally use a similar application to add people to like the startup program that I run. I'm sure the Crow Pro team also has like similar kinds of like problem statements, and we can probably even build one application for their use case in the future. So with that, I think that's mostly what I wanted to cover. I can like do probably live questions that people might have, and I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. It was really good walking through all the use cases. I know our app demo would have been, much, much better.
Yeah.
But let's park it for the next time, considering that we have an issue right now. So I think there are two questions on the chat window. Anvesha, do you want to go ahead and ask your question yourself, guys, or folks, or shall I pick it up?
I think just so that people ask more questions, let's just do it on like, I'll just pick them up.
Yeah.
Can I build an online catalog with Retool and make it public? So yes, you can. So like the app I showed you is a public app. So if you have like a catalog, let's say you have a catalog of like I showed you restaurants. If you want to build a public app, you just need to share it, and then as long as you don't need login access, anyone can go to that website and be able to see it. What I did was I bought a URL, and then I like forwarded that URL to Retool. I'll show you another example of an app that someone built called wordlestats.com or wordlestats.xyz or something. I think you might have seen that like popular game Wordle. So someone built an online like application of that, which you can find ways to like use it publicly, as long as you don't need that. I think it's this one. I'm going to remember to buy my mom a computer after this session. For the future sessions, I need a laptop for. So this is like a public app. Essentially, it allows you to, I think, track Wordle scores, and people have posted a lot of their Wordle scores on Twitter. So I think for that, they built this like leaderboard kind of application, and they made it public. These guys have taken that embed link that I created, similar to that, and just embedded it inside a React app. But in this case that I have over here, all I did was, and I can share like samples of how to do it as well. I went to this covidfood.india.com. I bought the URL and I forwarded it to the public link that you got created. As you can see, this one creates a public link. Cool. What else? I hope that answers your question, Anvisha. If you like have a follow-up, feel free. Can I use Retool to do customer surveys? Yeah, I mean, you can. I would personally use Typeform for customer surveys just because they are like only building that like for that problem statement. And they're also like, they allow you to do a lot of functions. But yes, you can definitely build a form because we let you do that and share that as a public link, and people can fill out that survey. Cool. So when it comes to data security, great question, Soam. Almost 90% of our like enterprise companies, like which have concerns with data security, host Retool on-prem. What does host Retool on-prem mean? It means that I'm just putting Retool inside of like my infra. So it like rests in my own AWS, GCP, or Kubernetes clusters. And I'm deploying it on my end. It's got nothing to do with Retool. Retool just gives you think about it as like, it just gives you the code and you can deploy it inside of your infrastructure. You're just using the application layer of Retool in this case. So yeah, we work with, as you can imagine from the customers that we work with, crypto companies like Coinbase and CoinSwitch in India, fintech companies like Brex and like Common Bond, Cred. Everyone has like security like restrictions, as well as they want to, not just that, they also want to host Retool inside of their own systems and infra because of regulation reasons. It's a very common use case in like healthcare and fintech, where they want to host Retool on-prem because, for example, the Indian government doesn't allow fintech companies to host data outside of Indian soil. So for that reason, most of our customers who use this at an enterprise level will host it on-prem. If you're just building it for your own like personal use case or startup, you can obviously use you can always use the cloud version. And there's a bunch of practices for like the cloud version that we talk about in our like security documentation to you can look at. But Retool over here is loading everything client side. So and the database credentials that you like have are like encrypted on the server. So if you just have like, you can think of Retool as just the UI, and as soon as Retool loads, it just connects to your database and pulls the information at real time, like inside your client, as opposed to saving that data on our servers. But yeah, if security is a concern, I almost always recommend the on-prem version. It takes very like 5-10 minutes to deploy. You can deploy it yourself if you know how to do that. We have like an AWS cloud formation for that. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to move to.
I think we missed one question.
Yeah.
Can we trigger cloud functions with Retool?
Can you clarify what you mean by trigger cloud functions? Are you talking about like?
The name is not clear. 20 BCSI is the username. Can you please clarify your question?
If you're talking about running a cron job or something, that is a product that we're working on, and you'll be able to run a cron job separately. If you're talking about cloud functions in Google, if there's an API endpoint that you want to call to trigger something, you can do that. All the things that you can like trigger are, either like DB calls, REST API calls, GraphQL, or calling like creating a Slack bot, pulling data from a spreadsheet. These are kind of like the things you can trigger. Google Cloud Functions. I don't know, actually. I've not like tried that use case before. Let me see. Do they have an API which allows you to do it? How do they? Because you can connect to GCP inside of Retool, but I have not checked this out. I'll get back to you. If you can just like drop me an email, I can send you more information about Google Cloud Function. I will try it out, unfortunately.
Okay.
So yeah, if they have an API endpoint, we can. If they don't, and you need a custom connector, then maybe not. Can't be sure.
Okay. So Sid, I think we can also talk about a slight difference between no code and low code tools. Like, right, a lot of tools are branded as a no code platform or a no code tool, but you are branding yourself as a low code. So why is that difference overall? And what do you think is the baseline demarcates these?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think so it's just like a spectrum of like, I think how technical the product is. We don't even call ourselves low code. We just like say we make help companies make internal tools faster. Primarily because we see a lot of engineers who use Retool, and no code tools like Glide and Bubble. They tend to like basically enable the person who knows zero coding, like Airtable. Anyone who doesn't need to code like even like a single line of code, even not like see that's kind of what I see spectrum. So then they would be very simple, very straightforward, limiting in different ways. They both have their pros and cons of like when you would use one or the other, right? So like if you're trying to build a mobile app on top of a Google spreadsheet, and you need to do that, you can use Glide for that. If you're building a customer facing web application, and you need like an MVP, Bubble is a great like use case. If you're building, I think someone mentioned Zapier. If you're building surveys, right, you can use something like, these are like all SaaS companies that solve for a specific problem, and there's like a no code solution for that. I think there's a great spreadsheet that this person named Naz built, if I can find it, which like map use case to the like no code solution in the market.
Oh wow. Please do share that if you have.
Yeah,
That
like,
handy.
I'm just looking at it. I'll just put it in this thing. He calls himself a no code PM, no code like builder from in like, and he's from India only, and
Okay.
he essentially has built a Notion also in some ways is no code, right? Because you can build so much on it. So that becomes your like more no code application development. And where we sit, it's mostly like, helping folks who are more technical, who want to also like still write SQL and be able to customize it very close to writing code. Just we're making the other part simpler. Like, you don't have to write the UI. You don't have to build, like, you don't have to write code to build the table and the form, but how you want the table and the form to interact with each other, and you can write JavaScript or like or SQL to pull that information. So yeah, I think
Okay.
this is his website. I think he has a link, that's his like Notion page somewhere there. So
Yeah.
you can check that out. Naz is a great person. He's also like someone to reach out to if you ever need help with picking a problem. What else?
Sure. Another question I have is more around the product management, right? Like what are the use cases PM solve exclusively using these low code or no code tools as such, right? Because we are not that technical, as in like we do not
Yeah.
do coding, but we do need, like, some PMs do need to have some understanding of the apps they're building, right? Like understanding in the terms of how to fit the components together and get them working and all, right? So what are the use cases that come to your mind for PM as such?
I mean, it's mostly to ship faster, right? As PMs, we want things to like ship faster. I think when you can avoid putting more like work to your engineering team by building like solution with just your like on your own quickly, along with maybe some operations and business people, then that's doing a lot for your product. Because I'll give an example. When I was building a coupon code system for Bounce, um, all the work was done on the Bounce app, but the coupon code system, and the backend side, the actual like portal to manage coupons, to like enable coupons. If we had like to build a portal of that as well, if we just increase the timelines and make the product a lot like, we might not even build that product. If the timelines increase, you'll see like the rise scores and the impact won't be enough. So it would, it allows you to basically solve the problems you want quickly, which are very necessary, but probably not like very exciting, sexy problems. So when I'm talking about KYC admin panel, right? The reason why a lot of people are not excited by that, because they're trying to probably build their like new app or like new feature inside of the app. But to enable that new feature inside of the app, even the config manager to turn it on is something that you have to build.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times you must be like, can you give me this config so I can turn on this flag? I want to turn this feature on for everyone in Mumbai. How do I do that? And someone will tell you that capability is not there, right? And so for things like that, if you have more control, sometimes you're able to ship faster. A lot of people will not be comfortable with PMs building these tools on their own, but what you can also think about is maybe you can build the UI part and then connect with an engineer. So you've done half the work for them already, that this is what I wanted to look, and you can collaborate together on it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's a good base for MVP as well, right? Before you start with the full-fledged product development, you can always build some MVP use cases using a no-code, low-code tool and just, show it that it's working or not.
Yeah. And in fact, like it's interesting, like you talk about this, because we've seen companies use Retool very differently in different like styles. Like at ShareChat, I work with people who, almost no engineers. Like we only work with operations and business and product analysts and product managers. who are building these tools because they don't want to go to engineering to build these tools. Because it's like something very custom for their workflow. They like have these massive CSVs they're uploading and downloading constantly. That kind of like that kind of they're even solving their own problems from it, like making some part of their work simpler, instead of like having to do five manual steps. So we see that. We also see companies that only like use engineering people to build like retool apps, which is, I think, very, very common. Like if it's a very big company, you're not going to give like prod DB access, you're not going to give REST API access to the PM. But that team will probably be able to like work with the PM to like, you can still like see the tool come out much faster. That engineer might not be as like, he or she will be able to build that application for you faster if you need it and make changes to it. Maintaining these tools becomes a very big headache. You've built it once, you know how like a V2 never goes out in a product, right? It's always the V1 is out now, people are using it, it's just how it is. I'm sure you've seen these problems.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting point you mentioned here that, some of the other teams can also take this work up and build simpler apps or simpler workflows or simpler things that they need for their functions. And it takes the load away from engineering as well, right? But on this, what is the learning curve do you think the non-tech person would have? Like if somebody from ops wants to build a simple data in, data out kind of a thing, what's the...
The bare minimum I would say is you need to know SQL. I would say don't even try building on Retool if you don't know SQL. It'll just be a lot more painful. If you're not a technical person at all, like I would start with a different like no code solution first. I don't recommend it for like absolutely non-tech people. So I think it's almost purposely like that because you can't really build for everyone, right? You're trying to build here so that people are able to actually use these products inside of their companies. And like, if it's too basic, it won't really work. So because you won't be able to build as much as you want. Siddharth, to answer your question, we are building a product for workflows that's going to be live soon, and I can basically give you access to the beta. But having said that, like Retool can be connected to Zapier very simply, because if you think of Zapier, it also can have an API call. And I think a friend of mine, Aditi, she has done like built similar apps like this. You might have seen her in the look, like do some of these applications. I'm happy to like work with you on an app that uses Retool and Zapier and show you how we can do that. But yes, anything that is an API call can be connected to a button in Retool, so you can kind of see that.
Okay. So what do you think is the upcoming on the low-code tools? Like how do you see the future in next few years? Adoption, in terms of adoption and overall growth.
So I think what's really important to realize is it's not that new. We've just like we've made it this hype thing, low code, no code. This has been happening for a long time. Excel is your first low code tool. There were things called Visual Basic and like FileMaker, which previously tried to do this, right? I think what we're seeing right now is more this like, you're seeing a lot more like people who need to interact and build software in the world. We don't have enough software engineers ever, right? And so it becomes like a big bottleneck there. Like we need a lot more technical like people, but obviously we can't train everyone to be technical. So somewhere like those solutions are kind of filling those gaps as well occasionally, right? Like it's letting independent entrepreneurs like build a Shopify store, and so I'm seeing low code, no code kind of becoming the future of SaaS in that sense, where almost every SaaS company will have an element where they'll allow you to customize it to your custom needs, and you can like write some basic code inside of it. Right? Salesforce is low code, no code if you think about it. Like it's a CRM, but there's so much custom like Salesforce like in like workflows you can build that it just becomes you need to hire a Salesforce expert for it. Hopefully that is not the case with us, and we wanted to like give anyone like access to like be able to build these things quickly. But yeah, I think it's not something that's that new. I think it's just like with the times that changing, this the amount of tech that like where tech is getting involved. It's getting involved in every sector. Everything is getting digitized. Um, so those problems, like, it's like it's going to be harder for a small medium business to hire engineers to build their custom CRM. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of like gap there. Even independent creators, even independent like organizations like yourself, everyone has some technical needs. We're doing this call on Zoom.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think this is also about the importance that we all have realized now of shipping faster. So earlier, if you see the old companies, they used to keep having a good build cycle, right? They would build for like months and months and then ship. But now all the startups that are upcoming, like you mentioned, want to have something to in market like very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's where all these tools are coming handy as well. Okay, I am mostly done with my questions. I have this last questions because since we have PMs here as well. So anything you want to tell PMs to look for or to, learn when it comes to these tools,
Yeah.
as like any advice you have?
Like, I think the most important like thing, quality of a PM, is to just be curious, right? Like, I think that's sort of what maybe brought me to a tool like Retool when I was in building. So I think in my case, as an engineer in the past, and I have seen the pain it is to build an internal tool and like something you just need to give one person. So for that, because of that pain, I was always kind of curious about probably like, how can I solve this problem better? So if you just like have that mindset in general to your like problems that you have, I think that's normally what it leads to, these kinds of like like state. Like I would not say like go learn this 5 tools, because it doesn't really matter that you like learned Webflow and you didn't have a use case. Yeah, if you're building a website, build it on Webflow, try something new out, you know, uh, like spend time getting your hands dirty. I think that's really helpful. That's how you learn really quickly. If you have a project in mind and you want to do it on the weekends or something, try to build it on your own. See, like, you're hearing about these people building on Glide, Bubble, Retool, etc. Build it on your own and see how far you get. See what some YouTube tutorials. Yeah, I've seen in my past like company at Bounce, we trained a customer support person to build Retool apps. So it's only because he was curious that he like went and built all those things. I wouldn't say it was more about like someone has a skill or not. Typically in everything, it's just about like how curious you are. Yeah, if you like follow, I don't know if there's like bloggers. I think like all the companies are putting out a lot of their own content. There is someone that puts a lot of content out for specifically Retool, called Bootstrapping Tools. It's this, person who is just is like a power user and wants to build, and also does Retool projects for companies. So he has a 4 like part YouTube video for building a CRM on top of a Google Sheet. I think he sometimes does it a better job than we also do at like explaining Retool, because he's just spent so much time in the product. And so that's someone who has done a 4-part series and a tutorial. But yeah, I think the other one is KP from On Deck. He runs a no-code fellowship. He's a program manager for This is KP on, if you search him on Twitter, you'll find him. He talks a lot about the space and the tools and stuff. He's not building content, but he's managing a cohort inside of On Deck. So yeah, that's what I think. I don't keep up with no code that much, to be honest, like just because of mine. Like my experience is mostly working with like engineers and technical product people. No code, like I said, the audience tends to be people who want to build something without any background in tech. So sorry, that's the extent I know. But I think if you like search for the companies themselves, the products, you'll be able to find YouTube channels and tutorials based on the specific problem. I think we as PMs get excited by new products and tools a lot. So I think it's more about what is the problem you're trying to solve at the end of the day, like I said. So that's how I've really gone about it. And I don't go around using every product out there, but if there is if people are telling me, oh, use member stack for managing a subscription or use ChargeBee or use Typeform, right? I'll try to, if I have a problem, that's when I will use it. I've built a lot of Notion pages and never gone back to them because I'm just not like someone who can manage like a Notion like doc and do all of that. So I think it really is a person-to-person thing and the problem you're solving.
Sure. I think we are almost done with the session. If anybody has any question, please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we can close. Sid, do you have anything else you want to?
Yeah, actually, so recently I launched this. I think I didn't get to that part of my slide. Cool. Let me see.
What's this Wordle thing that everybody keeps talking about? Keep seeing articles all over the place. It's literally everywhere.
I don't know where.
Man, it looks like the New York Times just bought it for a few million. That's crazy.
Is that coming from my computer?
And then now there's things being made. One in Google Sheets, but they're using formulas. It's not a very great experience.
Sorry, that was Joey's YouTube channel. So that's what was playing in the background. Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is that we made Retool like free for people in India to use up to 100 blocks. A block is just like one element inside of a Retool app. So, check it out. We also created a promo code for startups who want to use, part of the community. So if you go to like this Typeform, you can essentially sign up with Grow Pro 1K, and I'll give you Retool credits if you need it. But yeah, Retool is free to use. Go crazy. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm sid@retool.com if you need anything else. You can learn about the Retool India plan here, and I'm @PuriSid on Twitter, and that's all. So thank you for having me, Vanchika.
Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Sid, for sharing the knowledge with us and walking us through all the use cases. It's been a pleasure having you here. Okay, I think we can end the session. Please do follow Creators of Products if you want to attend more sessions on these interesting topics. We are also having our website, creatorsofproducts.com, where you can check about the events that are upcoming. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.